What if all the power in your home went out forever? No phones, no cars, no heat, just chaos. Experts warn a single EMP could black out huge parts of the US for weeks, but surviving doesn't have to cost a fortune. Ordinary, cheap household items could keep you alive. In this video, you'll discover 13 simple items most people overlook that can help you survive when the grid is down. While everyone rushes for generators and survival kits, you might already have the tools you need. Let's start with the first one, an everyday item most people throw away but could save your life. 1. Aluminum foil. It's not just for leftovers. Aluminum foil can act as a mini Faraday shield. Picture this. You're sitting in your living room when suddenly the lights go out across the whole neighborhood. Phones don't ring. Radios are silent. You look around and realize everything electronic is dead. But you're calm because you had 5 minutes earlier to take those little radios, backup flash drives, and walkie-talkies, wrap them in heavy-duty aluminum foil, and stash them in a cupboard. Now you're the only one who still has working communication. That's the difference maker right there. Why does this work? Because of the principle of a Faraday cage, a conductive enclosure that routes external electromagnetic forces around the device inside, so the inside remains safe. According to experts, wrapping spare electronics in tightly sealed conductive material is one of the few low-cost protective methods against an electromagnetic pulse. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency guidance from 2019 explicitly mentions, wrap spare electronics with aluminum foil or put in Faraday containers. Here's the real urgency. The Commission to Assess the Threat to the United States from Electromagnetic Pulse Attack warned that our society is highly dependent on electronics and that a high-altitude EMP could leave large areas powerless for extended periods. Think about it. No charging stations, no comms, no internet. But if you've preserved a few devices inside your foil wrap, you've retained that lifeline other people lost. The logical argument is simple. Why wait to build expensive specialized gear when you can take a $5 roll of foil, find a durable container, wrap your key electronics now, and ensure they survive an EMP event? It's cheap, minimal effort, and gives you a wrench-in-the-works advantage while everyone else scrambles. Real-life scenario. Imagine everyone at home panics when their radios don't work, but your radio crackles to life and you receive weather updates, emergency broadcasts, and make contact with others. That calm moment gives you space to act while others don't. For someone in the US, age 30 to 60, who's got responsibilities, kids, bills, home, car, this is a simple bet. Spend 5 minutes, wrap your vital gadgets, and you may maintain your connection when the world goes dark. Because when infrastructure fails, the person who still holds some working electronics has power, literally. And that kind of edge, it's peace of mind. 2. Trash bags. Heavy-duty black trash bags can serve so many roles in an emergency. Imagine this. A winter storm knocks out power across your town. It's dark, cold, your furnace is offline, and you're trying to keep your kids warm in the basement. You dig into your stash and pull out a box of heavy-duty trash bags. You use one to line a bucket for sanitation because the plumbing's unreliable. You slip another over your jacket, like a poncho, to fetch firewood. And you drape several more along a wall to add an extra layer of insulation around your sleeping bags. Minimal cost, massive impact. Here's why this matters. Federal Emergency Management Agency includes heavy-duty plastic garbage bags and ties for personal sanitation uses in its official emergency supplies checklist. That means even government-level guidelines recognize that what feels home store ordinary can be survival essential. What's more, the National Weather Service lists toilet paper and bags with ties for personal sanitation among the basic kit items you can grab on a shoestring. Let's make it real. You pick up a large box of trash bags for under $5. That's less than the cost of one grocery dinner for your family. Yet in a crisis, whether a power outage, an EMP event, or a flood, these bags become multifunction tools. Waterproof wrappers, temporary ponchos, water collection liners, insulation layers, ground covers. They're light, cheap, and storable. For someone aged 30 to 60, maybe with kids, pets, work, bills, they're inexpensive insurance when everything else stops working. And here's the emotional truth. When the lights go out and neighbors are scrambling for something to keep their kids dry or warm, you'll have something simple in hand. Something most people overlook. That box of trash bags becomes a symbol of calm, resourcefulness, preparedness. Because in a blackout or grid down scenario, the difference between fear and resilience is often small scripts like this: a plain trash bag turned life tool. So ask yourself, when the next emergency hits, will you be one of the scrambling or one of the prepared with the everyday items that matter? 3. Duct tape. If you've ever done a home repair, you know this stuff is gold. Let me paint a scene for you. The power's out, storms knocked over trees, maybe even shattered a window. Cold wind whistles through the house and your mind races. How am I going to keep the kids warm? How do I keep the rain from seeping in? That's when you grab the roll of duct tape from the garage, and suddenly you've got options. You seal broken windows, patch leaks, even build a makeshift shelter out of sheets and furniture. It's cheap, it's simple. And in a blackout or grid down scenario, it can become your lifeline. Here's what the experts say. According to Federal Emergency Management Agency, duct tape along with plastic sheeting is included in official emergency kits for good reason. Their guidance notes you can seal gaps under doorways and windows with duct tape in a shelter-in-place scenario to reduce outside contamination. While most of us think of it for quick fixes, the fact that it shows up in federal preparedness documents means it's serious. Now, why should you care? Especially if you're in the US and you're between 30 and 60, juggling bills, family, job? Because when the lights go out, your comfort, your sense of safety, the warmth you take for granted, all of it can vanish in minutes. And if you've got duct tape, you've got something that bridges the gap between we're in trouble and we're managing. It's a tool that gives you control when everything else feels uncertain. Here's a relatable example. Your upstairs window got shattered by debris during a storm. It's late night, rain is coming in, and you don't have the luxury of a repair crew. You rip off 2-foot strips of duct tape, anchor plastic sheeting over the opening, and suddenly the wind stops roaring. The room is dry, safe, kids can sleep, and you can breathe. In contrast, a neighbor is trying to throw blankets up, cursing the cold. Who do you think has better sleep that night? The logic's simple. One cheap roll, less than $10 in most stores, could save you hundreds, even thousands in damage, not to mention peace of mind. Instead of buying fancy gear, just stop for a minute, walk down the hardware aisle, pick up a good quality duct tape roll, put it in your everyday kit. Because when an emergency hits and you're staring at a broken window or leaking roof, the person who has the tape is the one who gets calm instead of frantic 5. Manual can opener. Sounds obvious, right? But during a blackout, when your electric one is useless, this small tool becomes essential. Imagine the power flickers off, then stays off. You reach for a comforting can of soup or beans in your pantry, only to realize your electric can opener is as dead as your lights. You're staring at one of the most basic food security failures in that moment. That's why a simple manual can opener becomes a silent hero. According to Federal Emergency Management Agency, in their Food and Water in an Emergency Guide, a manual can opener is explicitly listed among the essential items you need in your emergency kit if you have canned food. The American Red Cross also lists a manual can opener for canned food as a preparedness kit must. Here's why this matters, and why you should feel it. You're part of that 30 to 60 age group juggling kids, work, bills, responsibility. You've stocked up on canned goods thinking you're set for an emergency, but if you forget the tool to open them, all that prep just sits there. Meanwhile, you're hungry, frustrated, and vulnerable. A manual can opener that costs less than a cup of coffee solves that. In a scenario where the grid is down, maybe from an EMP event or a severe storm, power goes off, electronics go silent, and time becomes your enemy. You may not have the luxury of fresh food or store runs. That can opener becomes your gateway to nourishment, comfort, and stability. Visualize this. Your neighbor is rummaging through leftover electric openers, trying to solder or jury-rig something, while you calmly pop open a can with your manual tool. That difference equals less stress, more control, more safety. The logic is simple. Spend $2 or $3, maybe pick up 2 or 3 extras. Throw them in your kit, your glove box, your basement prep shelf. Because when the lights are out and hunger weighs in, it isn't the most advanced gadget that saves you, it's the one you actually have. Keep it real. That small manual can opener may not look like much, but in the darkest moments, it could unlock your entire food supply. 6. Baking soda. This one might surprise you. Baking soda is one of the most underrated emergency tools out there. Picture this. You've just gone through 2 days of power loss. Water's been trickling from the tap, the washing machine's silent, and your family's starting to feel that we're stripped down kind of moment. You look at the mess in the kitchen sink, unwashed dishes, no dishwasher power, and you remember that box of baking soda you grabbed last week. A simple handful in hot water becomes your dish cleaning hack. Without running water, mix it into a paste for your plates. Dirt, grease, even stubborn food flares fade. That white powder suddenly feels like gold. It gets better. According to official fire prevention literature, Federal Emergency Management Agency states that for small oil or grease fires, you can smother the flames with baking soda or salt. So, when your stove is powered down but you're cooking over a camping burner or wood fire in the house, baking soda is your safety net. And there's more. Most preparedness checklists point to baking soda among the long shelf life staples, meaning you can buy it now, store it, and know it'll still be useful in months or years. As someone in the US with a household, job, maybe kids and pets, you already face what-ifs. What if the water supply tailed off? What if the grid went down longer than you expected? That box of baking soda quietly sits on the shelf, ready to step in. In a world without power, basic hygiene, safety, and comfort get threatened fast. Your morning coffee might be irrelevant, but keeping your kitchen clean and avoiding fire risks, that matters. Baking soda can freshen shoes, neutralize body odor when showers are a luxury, fight indigestion if stress hits your gut. It's a multi-tool in powder form. So here's the emotional truth. When your neighbors are scrambling for cleanup or panicking over a spill, and you calmly grab baking soda, you're not just prepared, you're steady. That feeling of being the one who has something instead of wishing you did, it's powerful. Add 1 box of baking soda today, because when everything else fails, the simplest things often save you. 7. Plastic bottles. Don't throw them away. Plastic bottles can store water, serve as makeshift lanterns, and even help with water purification if you use the sunlight method. In a long-term blackout, water storage is everything, and free bottles can save you gallons of clean water. Imagine this. The power grid goes down, taps either stop flowing or start delivering off flavor water, and you're suddenly facing the question, where am I going to get clean water for the family? You look around and spot several empty 2-liter soda bottles, a few juice containers, maybe some water jugs you saved. What if I told you those could become part of the lifeline that keeps you drinking, cooking, and staying sane? Here's what the experts say. The Federal Emergency Management Agency and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommend storing at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for drinking and sanitation. The CDC, in a June 2025 update, reiterated, store at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for 3 days. Try to store a 2-week supply if possible. And guidance from Utah's Division of Drinking Water also follows that 1 gallon rule, noting, store the bottles away from any source of fumes or odors. So how does this link back to everyday plastic bottles? According to FEMA's Food and Water in an Emergency pamphlet, you can use 2-liter plastic soft drink bottles for storing water. Just make sure they're thoroughly cleaned and sanitized. Here's why this matters to you right now. You might have kids, a job, bills, routines. So the thought of going to a store when shelves are bare or relying on public water when the grid is down is scary. But you've got dozens of plastic bottles sitting in your kitchen, garage, or recycling side. Take 20 minutes this weekend. Clean them, fill them with tap water, label them, and stack them in a cool, dark place. That's gallons of water pre-stored, free, ready. And beyond just drinking, place a filled bottle over a flashlight at night and you've got a makeshift lantern. Use the sunlight method or boil water in a sanitized bottle for purification. In a down-grid scenario where every tiny advantage counts, free plastic bottles turn survival tools equals less worry, more resilience. So here's your takeaway. Recycle those bottles, but save enough for emergency use. They don't cost you anything, yet they could be the difference between scrambling for water and calmly turning on your backup supply. Because when the lights go out and taps stop, bottled water prepared ahead equals peace of mind. 8. Solar garden lights. If you have these in your yard, you already own a free lighting system. Picture it. The grid goes out. It could be an EMP event, a major storm, or some other interruption that knocks out your electricity for hours or even days. You stumble around the house, flashlight batteries are drained. The night feels long and endless. Then you remember those solar garden lights you let charge out in the yard earlier. You bring them inside, switch them on, and suddenly you've got steady, reliable light without using up any batteries. That little glow changes the mood. It takes you from vulnerable to still in control. Here's what the experts say. A 2024 article on solar solutions in emergency preparedness noted that solar-powered lights continue to operate even if the power grid is down, making them invaluable during extended outages. The same resource emphasized that solar path lights and panels can mark safe walkways or give you simple illumination. No fuel needed, no power station required. And according to the Federal Emergency Management Agency and other emergency print kits, with lighting one of the main things people worry about when darkness hits, any tool that works independent of the grid is a win. Here's why this matters, especially for you, at home, aged 30 to 60, juggling life, family, bills. Light isn't just convenience in a blackout, it's psychological. It gives comfort to kids, it keeps you safe when moving around, it helps you stay calm. Those solar lights aren't fancy gear. They're your quiet advantage when others are scrambling for candles or flashlights. And the best part? If you already have them outside charging during the day, they cost you nearly nothing extra. Use them indoors at night when the grid fails, and you preserve your real batteries for communications, medical equipment, or cooking gear. Here's a real-life example. Your neighborhood loses power after a storm. Neighbors are fumbling with dead flashlights. You pull in 4 to 5 solar stakes from the garden, place them around the living room, turn them on, and your family gathers, relaxes, plans. With light, you talk, read, map your situation. Without it, others are stuck in fear mode, stuck waiting. That difference creates calm. That's survival. So check your yard, take those solar garden lights, let them absorb the sunlight now. When the night grows long and dark, bring them in, because in a world without electricity, a little light that charges itself for free goes a long way. 9. Ziploc bags. You'd be amazed how important it is to keep things dry when you have no power. Picture this. You wake up to a blackout. The power's out, your electronics are offline, and you're rummaging through your emergency stash. Your water heater's dead, the HVAC isn't working, and truth is, even a tiny leak from a pipe or roof starts feeling like a disaster. In that moment, you pull out a stack of Ziploc-style plastic bags, and you realize they're not just leftovers from leftovers. They're lifesavers. You slip matches into one bag, meds into another, insurance papers into a third, seal them tight. You feel a little bit better, a little less vulnerable. Here's what the experts say. According to the Federal Emergency Management Agency Emergency Checklist, one of the simplest items to include is in copies of important documents stored in a waterproof portable container. Meanwhile, the Food Allergy and Anaphylaxis Connection team emphasizes storing important documents such as ID, insurance policies, medical records, in a waterproof bag. So while they may not call out Ziplocs by brand, the function, waterproof plastic bags, is exactly what they mean. Now, why should you care? Especially if you're in the US, age 30 to 60, balancing a home, a family, maybe aging parents. Because when the grid fails and everything gets shaky, it's not just big scary things like food or water you lose. It's the small essentials that make your foundation crumble. Matches that get damp, meds that get ruined, documents you need for insurance or identity that get soaked. But if you've sealed them in Ziploc bags ahead of time, you've preserved your calm, your options, your safety. Example time. The storm hits. Your roof leaks just enough to drift water onto the kitchen table. In the chaos, you've got Ziploc bags ready, meds inside one, backup flash drive with family photos inside another, emergency cash inside a third. You pull them out, unaffected by the drip. Your neighbor's scrambling, worried about lost paperwork and ruined meds. You're handling it. Here's the emotional truth. Knowing you've protected the things that matter when nobody else did, that's power. It might feel like a small act, grabbing a pack of Ziplocs, but when the world around you is failing, that small act translates to resilience. Because when you're not just surviving, but still managing your essentials, you're winning. So next time you're shopping, grab the gallon-sized Ziplocs. Buy a dozen. Label a few for documents, a few for meds, a few for matches or electronics. Because in a blackout, the person who has stockpiled plastic bags isn't glamorous. They're prepared, and that makes all the difference. 10. Coffee filters. They're not just for coffee. Coffee filters can purify water by filtering out debris before you boil it. They also make great fire starters when paired with a little wax or oil. And they're cheap. A few dollars gets you far more than an extra cup of brew. Imagine this scenario. You're hours into a grid failure. The taps are unreliable, the water coming in is murky, and the only stove available is your camping burner. You fill the pot with water from the outdoor tank, but it's cloudy, full of sediment. That's when the coffee filter comes in. You sit it over a clean container, pour through the filter, and the grit stays back. The resulting water is clearer and ready for boiling or disinfection. According to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, when water is cloudy, you should let it settle and filter it through a clean cloth, paper towel, or coffee filter before boiling. So yes, that humble pack of coffee filters ticks off a legit survival function. Now let's talk fire. No electricity, no central heating. Maybe you're in a basement waiting it out. You take a couple coffee filters, drip a little cooking oil, or smear some wax on them, twist them into little bundles, and you've got instant tinder that lights fast, even if your regular fire starter is damp. It's minimal cost, maximal value. And here's why this resonates with you, especially if you're in the US, age 30 to 60, juggling a household, budget, kids, or pets. You probably have coffee filters at home anyway. It doesn't feel like prepping when you buy them. But when the emergency becomes real, and you realize your water is questionable or your kindling won't catch, the person with 3 little bundles of cotton paper is calmer. Meanwhile, others are scrambling. That feeling, having that little edge, means less panic. Less, I should have done more, and more, I'm handling this. So consider this. Next time you're in the grocery aisle, pick up 2 extra packs of coffee filters. Put 1 in your emergency box, 1 in your kit, because when the grid goes out and the water becomes sketchy, that filter and that little fire bundle of paper and oil could be the difference between chaos and calm. 11. Petroleum jelly. Combine this with cotton balls and you've got one of the best fire starters in the world. Just a small dab burns for minutes, enough to get a fire going in wet or cold conditions. And in a blackout, fire means warmth, light, and survival. Imagine this. You're hours into a power outage. The house is cold, the kids are restless, and the only thing that feels worse than the dark is feeling helpless. You pull out a jar of petroleum jelly from your shelf, tear open a few cotton balls, smear a little jelly on each one, and in less than a minute, you've got a bundle that, when lit, burns steadily for minutes. Suddenly, you're not just surviving the night, you're managing it. Preparedness communities confirm this works. According to the Appalachian Mountain Club, petroleum jelly-soaked cotton balls are some of the best emergency tinder out there. A single cotton ball will burn steadily for 3 to 5 minutes or more. And a July 2024 piece from a survival gear site confirms petroleum jelly is listed alongside dryer lint and wax as a reliable component in homemade fire starters. For the 30 to 60-year-old American viewer, maybe you've got a family, mortgage, work schedule, life to protect. This tool is about more than fire. It's about calm in the moment of chaos. You don't need fancy equipment or overpriced kits. You need simplicity under pressure. And when the grid goes down or the storm hits, that tube of jelly and those cotton balls could give you the difference between shivering in silence and sitting by a gentle flame, planning your next move. Here's your real-life angle. A neighbor's stove goes cold. They've got no heat. The firewood refuses to light because it's damp. Meanwhile, you drop a prepared cotton ball starter into your kindling and build your fire with ease. The light comes on, warmth fills the room. The kids stop worrying. That moment of control, they don't buy that at the store, they buy it ahead of time. So pick up a container of petroleum jelly. Toss a dozen cotton balls in the jelly now. Store them in a sealed bag. Because when the darkness hits, it won't matter how smart the storm was. It'll matter how prepared you were. 13. Garbage can, metal. Here's the big one, and few people realize how powerful it is. A simple metal garbage can lined with cardboard can act as a DIY Faraday cage. Store your critical electronics inside: radios, small solar panels, backup drives. When the EMP hits, this can protect them from total destruction. It's basically a bunker for your gear. Imagine this. You wake up one morning, check your phone. Nothing. Power's out. Later, you learn it's a high-altitude EMP or major solar flare. Your car won't start. Your backup generator is fried. But in your basement, You have a metal trash can sealed tight. Inside, you've got a backup radio, a thumb drive with important digital files, a small solar charge controller. You pop the lid, spin the crank on the manual radio, and you've got a signal. Others are scrambling for cash, for comms, for hope. You're using that little can as your vault. Here's the science. A Faraday cage works because a conductive enclosure channels external electromagnetic fields around the interior, protecting what's inside. In practical prep terms, the blog, Making and Testing a Trash Can. Faraday cage, by Dr. Arthur Bradley, measured a plain metal can, gave only approximately 18 decibels shielding, but when sealed with conductive tape and gaskets, it reached greater than 40 decibels, about 13 times better protection. That tells us, yes, the idea works, but the execution matters. If you're in the US, aged 30 to 60, you're likely managing family, job, bills, assets. It's one thing to have a backup solar panel, but it's another to have it fried in an EMP event. That's why the garbage can solution matters. It's low cost, simple, and when built right, massively ups your odds of having functioning gear after disaster. Here's a real lifestyle scenario. You've got backup documents on a USB stick, a couple of spare walkie-talkies, your small solar controller. You toss them in the lined metal trash can, seal the lid with aluminum tape, label it EMP Safe Gear. Few neighbors will think of that. When voices on battery drained radios stop, you fire yours up from inside. That difference is calm versus chaos. So here's your takeaway. Go buy a galvanized metal trash can with a tight-fitting lid. Line it with cardboard so nothing inside touches the can's metal walls. Use conductive tape or a gasket to seal the lid to can seam. Store your critical electronics inside and mark the date. Because when the grid goes down or electronics fail en masse, the person who has a DIY Faraday cage is the one who still has gear. And that gear might just keep you connected, informed, and ahead. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll be ready when the lights go out. And comment below, which of these 13 items would you grab first in an emergency?